Hey, greetings everyone. Glenn Kelloway coming to you from the basement. It is Friday morning as I record this and upload it. Hope everyone is going to have a great day. Today, I want to talk about some of the great concerts I saw back in the day. I don't want to much focus on the concerts, but I would just want to tell you the bands I saw, kind of when I saw them, where I saw them, and my favorite albums from the bands kind of at that time when I was going to see them. So my first big concert in 1967, I think it was April 2nd, 1967 at Maple Leaf Gardens, was the Monkees. Now, I was a huge Monkees fan. It was an amazing concert. If you ever watch the Monkees TV show, there's the one episode where they kind of do like a documentary and follow them around when they're on tour. Like that pretty much is exactly the way I remember it, those shots of them performing. That was it. They all played together and then they came out separately and then got back together again and played. It was a really cool experience, especially being I hadn't quite turned 14 yet, so I enjoyed it. But my favorite Monkees album, which wasn't out at the time, but it's always the one I pull out, is Headquarters. More of the Monkees, I believe, was the one that was released. This one was they were going to be working on when they got back off the tour, and the first one where they actually played instruments themselves, and great record. More of the Monkees. So that was my first concert. Now I kind of took a pretty big step up from there. Things started to change in 1967 for me personally. Started high school. Started to become aware of a lot more things going on at the time, without going into any detail. And in 1968, Massey Hall, I got a chance to see Cream. Still one of my favorite concerts of all time. It's probably the concert that's the oldest, but still the most vivid in my memory. You know what I mean? Like I can still close my eyes and picture them on stage. And they were incredible, especially Ginger Baker. I'll just never forget watching the way that guy played and moved, and it was just a phenomenal concert. And I have to show Disraeli Gears. I mean, I don't know if this is the Cream album I listen to the most now. I really love the first album, but this album has the best songs on it. Like if you got Tales of Brave Ulysses and Sunshine of Your Love and Swablar and this is just a fantastic album and one of my favorite album covers of all time too. So Cream, 1968. Also in 1968, in a small club, they used to have this place called the Electric Circus in Toronto, 99 Queen Street East. It was a psychedelic type environment. You walked in and they had that strobe room and they had a room you could walk into and all these they had pillars and they had leather padding all over them, and it was just a crazy place. And then they had the room with the concert area, very small venue. I got to see the original Jeff Beck group there doing the Truth album with Rod Stewart, Ron Wood, Jeff Beck. I mean, one of my favorite albums of all time. And seeing that in a small venue was freaking incredible. That was 1968. Also in 1968, I was lucky enough that I had a friend. I don't know how she figured it out, but she figured out Frank Zappa very early on. She had the Freak Out album, and I heard that, and I thought, wow, that was pretty strange. That was kind of my thoughts on it. It was just, it was kind of cool that it was just so different. And then Zappa releases Absolutely Free, and this album turned me into a Zappa freak. This is the absolute greatest album for me in terms of turning me, like I said, into a crazy Zappa fan. I got to see Frank in 1968. University of Toronto has a hall called Convocation Hall. I think that's where they do all their graduation ceremonies and stuff like that, but they have concerts there too. I saw John Prine there, other people, Michael Hedges, I can't think, a few people, but I got to see Frank Zappa and the Mothers there in 1968, the original Mothers of Invention. Crazy show. I didn't understand most of it. They were doing all this whacked out jazzy stuff that just as a 15-year-old kid it was just way over my head, but it was so cool seeing Frank Zappa and the Mothers. 1968 quickly turns into 1969, and that was the year when I really came of age, turned 16, and saw some incredible shows. May of that year, I got to see Jimi Hendrix at Maple Leaf Gardens. I remember the date. It was Mother's Day, a Sunday night, and Jimmy was amazing. Earlier that day, he got busted for heroin, and so that was a big deal. And then he came out and just played great. Now, people always ask me what it was like seeing Jimi Hendrix, and the vivid memories I have are not like, I just can't, I have no stories to tell. And I think what happens is when you're living in the times, like you go see Jimi Hendrix, 1969, Maple Leaf Gardens, you think you're going to go see Jimi Hendrix for the next 50 years. You don't know the guy's going to die tragically the next year, so it's not in your brain to go, I got to remember every detail of this show because Jimmy's going to die. Like, you know, it was just like, so if you go to shows, treasure the moments because you never know if you're going to get to see these people again, and that's interesting. 1969 also got to go to Massey Hall and see Johnny Winter with the Johnny Winter Band with Edgar Winter in it and Red Turner and who's the other dude? Guys who ended up in playing with Stevie Ray Vaughan later. But man, another show I vividly remember. Johnny was wearing this black, long black, like a velvet robe, and he'd just run back and forth on stage, and he was just so incredible and such a great guitar player. And Edgar playing the saxophone and the keyboards and the, oh man, I mean, those guys were two of the greatest live performers I ever saw at that time. And this was the Johnny Winter album that I had fallen in love with at that time. It's still my favorite Johnny Winter album, Progressive Blues Experiment. It's My Own Fault's on here. A lot of great, just a dripping blues album. Great album, but seeing Johnny in that venue in 1969, before he really hit it big, this is pre-Woodstock, and pretty cool. 69, let me see if I can flip this around. You see that? Led Zeppelin, O'Keefe Center, November 2nd, 1969. That is the concert I went to. That is an original flyer from the concert. And I got to see Led Zeppelin at a place called the O'Keefe Center in Toronto, which I think it's called the Hummingbird Center now. It was the Sony Center for a while. Holds about 2,500 people. Before Zeppelin just really went nuts and started playing stadiums and hockey arenas, it was great to see them in a small venue. Led Zeppelin 2 was just coming out. I mean, just coming out. So that's why whenever I think of the concert, I think of Led Zeppelin 2, although I was a freak from Led Zeppelin 1. That's why, but man, to have seen those guys in that venue, I still remember Jimmy Page going "Dan" with the bow and the guitar, and oh man, incredible. 1969 turns into 1970, and I go to one of the most legendary festivals, Festival Express, the Train Festival, whatever you want to call it. Grateful Dead, Flying Burrito Brothers. In Toronto was 10 years after, and Traffic played that show. Mountain, Buddy Guy, Delaney and Bonnie and Friends. Who am I missing? Ian and Sylvie and the Great Speckled Bird. Oh my God, I don't know who else. But the stars of the show, Saturday night closing show, or Friday night, I'm sorry. No, Saturday night. It was Saturday, Sunday. Saturday night, the band closed, and I was for both of these performances I'm going to talk about, I was right at the front of the stage. The band, 1970, this album was coming out. I mean, they were so good. There was this area in front of the stage. They had like one of those cheap snow fences up, and that was kind of an area where I guess the reporters and cameramen are supposed to go. No one was watching it. You just walk right in. I walked right in and stood right on the stage, and there's Garth Hudson and Robbie Robertson right in front of me, man. It was incredible. The Sunday night, my girl, closed the show. Janis Joplin, what a performance. She was so electric. Like, I have never seen a performance like that. She was amazing, amazing. She was on fire that night. It was incredible. This album was out, got my old Cosmic Blues again, Mama. That was June 28th or 29th of 1970, and sadly she was gone by October 4th, 1970, a few short months later. Wow, just dynamic. Again, I got to stand kind of in front of the stage and watch her for a bit, and man, just wow, incredible. Where am I going next? 1969. This is July. That was June 69. A few short weeks later, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, I'm at Varsity Stadium in Toronto. Outdoor venue. It's the football field stadium for University of Toronto. That is where my phone's ringing. Just let it go. That is where John Lennon did his rock and roll revival thing. There was the band played there with Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young in '74. There was just all kinds of great shows there. In July of that year, I think it's around the 28th or something like that, Blind Faith, one of my favorite concerts of all time. Maybe top 2 or 3 concerts. Blind Faith with Taste, Rory Gallagher opening the show. Delaney and Bonnie come on next, and then Blind Faith. Beautiful summer evening, sitting about 10 rows on the lawns or floor, whatever you want to call it, facing the stage. And Delaney and Bonnie and Friends were incredible. I wish I had known all the people who were in that band at that time, but Leon Russell and probably Dave Mason and Bobby Whitlock and all these incredible people who I would have witnessed that night and not been aware of them at the time. But Blind Faith was great. I mean, they played that whole album. Incredible show, incredible. And walking out of that show, people were giving out flyers for a festival coming up. And we're looking at the flyers going, wow, Hendrix, The Who, Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead. It just went on and on and on. We're going, what a festival this would be. I'm 16 years old. New York State, oh man, would have loved to go to that. It was Woodstock. They were advertising for Woodstock. Who knew what was going to happen? Unbelievable. Next, 1972. I don't know what happened in 71. I can't figure out what concerts I would have went to. I would have went to some, but I guess none of the big names. 1972, my favorite concert of all time I got to go to. The Rolling Stones finally come to Toronto. I don't think they'd been here since 65 or 66. Exile on Main Street, that was the tour. What a show. Stevie Wonder opening for the Rolling Stones. How can you ask for a better double bill than that? Exile on Main Street, I got to show this album, my favorite Stones album. They played it all, Tumble and Dice. It was just a freaking great show. It was a hot July night. I remember how steamy hot it was that night. And when you walk through the corridors, the common areas of Maple Leaf Gardens, the floors were like wet with sweat or something. Like you felt like you were slipping on the floors. It was like freaking hot. But the Stones were hot. Last but not least, I want to leave you with the band I saw 2 years in a row. And I never get the dates right, but I think it was 74 and 75 or 75 and 76. It was The Who at Maple Leaf Gardens with Keith Moon. And I'm going to show who's next, the greatest Who album, except my favorite Who album is Quadrophenia, but I think most people consider that the greatest one. That is kind of a walk down memory lane for the kind of the classic concerts I saw when I was a young lad. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. I might do another one just on some of the other ones I did. If people watch this and like it, I'm going to continue. But anyway, you have a great day, and thumbs up. Please subscribe. Thank you.